There's a moment when you open your banking app and don't feel panic or shame. You don't rush to close it or avoid the numbers. Instead, you feel calm. You stop calculating whether you can afford a coffee or groceries. Small purchases no longer feel like financial disasters. That shift doesn't require millions. Most people believe wealth starts at 6 or 7 figures. They think confidence comes later, but the real turning point is much earlier. There is a financial threshold that changes how your brain works. It turns fear into strategy. That number is $20,000. Not because it's a massive amount of money, but because of what it unlocks mentally. This is where control begins. Before this point, every decision feels urgent. You think short-term because you must. Survival dominates everything. Without savings, your brain lives in scarcity mode. You accept bad jobs because waiting feels dangerous. You stay stuck because leaving feels impossible. This isn't laziness or lack of discipline. It's biology responding to threat. A stressed brain cannot plan growth. Trying to build wealth without a buffer is exhausting. Your mind is always firefighting. There is no space for opportunity. Crossing $20,000 creates breathing room. For the first time, your finances aren't fragile. That alone changes behavior. You stop asking how to survive. You start asking how to grow. That question changes outcomes. This is the first invisible wealth barrier. Most people never cross it, not because they can't, but because they quit. Early saving feels like pushing a boulder uphill. Progress is slow and discouraging. Momentum is hidden. Every dollar feels insignificant at first. Returns feel meaningless. This is where most people stop. But momentum quietly builds. One day the effort feels lighter. That's the turning point. Your second $20,000 comes faster than the first. Not because you worked harder, but because money joined the effort. Compound interest stops being theory. It becomes visible. You finally feel progress. Scale changes everything. The strategy stays simple. Only the impact grows. This milestone also rewires identity. You prove you can delay gratification. That skill transfers to life. You stop sweating small purchases. You focus on big decisions. That's how wealthy people think. Housing, income, investments matter more than coffee. Optimization replaces obsession. Mental energy is freed. Emergency expenses stop feeling catastrophic. Problems become manageable. Stress loses its grip. You begin seeing opportunities, not just threats. That changes your trajectory. Money creates options. Options create leverage. Leverage creates wealth. Your career changes too. You stop working from desperation. You start negotiating from strength. Walking away money changes behavior. Confidence increases without being used. People notice. Better opportunities appear. Income grows faster. The loop accelerates. This is where many people fail. They treat $20,000 as a reward. It's not. It's a foundation, a seed. Destroying it resets everything. Big purchases reveal opportunity cost. Monthly payments hide real damage. Wealth leaks quietly. Used assets fund future freedom. Flashy ones steal it. The difference is awareness. You start asking better questions. Not, can I afford this? But what does this cost my future? That mindset compounds too. Choices align with goals. Waste disappears. Life becomes intentional. Money stops leaking unnoticed. Control feels natural. $20,000 won't make you rich overnight, but it changes everything downstream. That's real power. It separates surviving from designing life, reaction from intention, chaos from strategy. Most people never reach this point, not because it's impossible, but because it requires patience. But patience pays exponentially. The curve bends in your favor. Time stops being the enemy. This is how wealth actually starts. Quietly, without applause. Build the base first. Everything else comes easier. Your future depends on it. Wealth doesn't announce itself loudly. It grows quietly while you're busy living. Most people miss it because they're looking for noise. The early stage feels boring and unrewarding. Nothing dramatic seems to happen. That's exactly why it works. Consistency beats intensity every time. Small actions repeated daily reshape outcomes. This is where discipline quietly wins. You stop chasing shortcuts and quick wins. You trust systems instead of luck. That mindset compounds faster than money. Financial peace changes how you move through life. You speak slower and decide calmer. Urgency fades. You don't need to prove anything anymore. Status loses its grip on you. Freedom replaces validation. Advertising stops working the same way. Impulse buys feel obvious and transparent. You see the trap before stepping in. You realize comfort doesn't equal happiness. More stuff doesn't mean more peace. Alignment matters more than accumulation. Time becomes your most valuable asset. You protect it fiercely. Money now serves time, not the other way around. You invest with patience, not emotion. Volatility no longer scares you. You understand the long game. Mistakes become lessons, not disasters. Losses feel temporary, not defining. Perspective is power. You stop comparing timelines with others. Everyone is running a different race. Peace comes from staying in your lane. Your confidence becomes quiet and grounded. No need for loud wins. Stability speaks for itself. You prepare for downturns instead of fearing them. Preparation removes panic. Calm beats prediction. Flexibility becomes your advantage. You can wait, move, or pivot. Options create resilience. You start helping without hurting yourself. Generosity feels safe. Abundance replaces fear. Your environment improves naturally. Stressful relationships fade away. Boundaries become easier. You think in decades, not months. Short-term noise loses importance. Vision sharpens. Wealth becomes a tool, not a goal. It supports your values, not the other way around. You feel lighter despite owning less. Clarity replaces clutter. Intentional living wins. This is the phase people never post online. It's not flashy or viral, but it's real. Slow progress becomes unstoppable progress. Nothing dramatic, everything durable. That's the trade-off. You trust yourself more than trends. Noise fades into background. Conviction grows. Money stops controlling your mood. Your emotions stabilize. Freedom feels internal now. You stop fearing what if. You've already prepared for it. Confidence becomes logical. This is how momentum sustains itself. Not through excitement, but through structure. Your future stops feeling abstract. It feels reachable, almost familiar. The foundation quietly does its job. Day after day, year after year. What once felt impossible now feels inevitable. Not because of luck, but because of systems. This is what real wealth looks like. Quiet, stable, and free. And it all started with the base. With stability comes clarity. You see what actually matters. Everything else fades naturally. Your goals become simpler, not smaller. They align with who you are, not who you're trying to impress. You stop rushing life. There is no need to catch up. You're already on track. Decisions feel lighter now, because mistakes won't destroy you. They'll only slow you down briefly. Security creates patience. Patience creates better choices. Better choices compound. You no longer fear slow days. They're part of the process. Rest becomes productive. Your calendar reflects your values, not obligations forced by money. Time finally feels yours. You choose quality over quantity. In work, people, and habits, life feels cleaner. Money stops being emotional. It becomes mechanical. That's where mastery begins. You respect money without worshiping it. You use it deliberately, never impulsively. Your confidence no longer spikes or crashes. It stays steady, like your finances. You prepare quietly while others react loudly. Preparation always wins. Noise always loses. Your stress tolerance increases, not because life is easier, but because you're stronger. You don't need constant motivation. Systems carry you forward, even on bad days. This is sustainable progress. Not exciting, but unbreakable. You realize wealth is cumulative calm, not peak moments, but steady ground. Others chase intensity. You build endurance. Endurance always lasts longer. Your future feels protected, not guaranteed, but prepared. You've built something boring and powerful. Most people never do. That's the edge. This is the quiet advantage. Invisible to most, but life-changing to those who understand. At this stage, money stops being the center of your thoughts. It becomes infrastructure, not entertainment. You don't check balances out of anxiety anymore. You check them out of routine. You realize how expensive instability really was. Not financially, but mentally. The constant background stress is gone now. Silence replaces it. You start sleeping better without trying. Your body finally trusts tomorrow. No alarms in your nervous system. Just rest. Planning becomes enjoyable instead of stressful. You think in possibilities, not constraints. The future feels open, not fragile. That changes your tone. You no longer envy fast success stories. You understand what's missing from them. Stability rarely looks impressive early, but it always lasts longer. Your patience deepens instead of wearing out. Time feels like an ally now. You stop fighting the clock. You move with it. You notice how others rush unnecessarily. They confuse motion with progress. You don't interrupt them. You just stay steady. Your confidence is no longer performative. It doesn't need witnesses. It shows up in your decisions, not your words. You stop over-optimizing small things. Big levers matter more now. Energy flows to what compounds. Everything else is optional. This is where wealth feels boring to outsiders. There are no dramatic moves, just steady execution and quiet confidence. You understand that freedom is built, not found. No single moment creates it. It emerges slowly from repetition and discipline. Your life becomes harder to impress but easier to enjoy. You need less stimulation, less validation, more alignment. You trust the process because you've seen it work, not once, but repeatedly. Evidence replaces hope. That's maturity. Setbacks no longer feel personal. They're just data points. You adjust and continue. No drama required. This is where wealth becomes durable, not because it's large, but because it's resilient. That's the real milestone. You stop measuring success by speed. Longevity becomes the real metric. If it can last, it matters. If it can't, you let it go. You design your days instead of reacting to them. Structure replaces chaos. Your calendar reflects your values, not other people's urgency. You notice how calm creates leverage. People trust steady energy. Decisions carry more weight because they aren't rushed. You stop explaining your choices. Results speak quietly for you. No justification required. No defense needed. Your risk tolerance becomes intentional. You know when to move and when to wait. Patience turns into a weapon, used selectively. You no longer fear boredom. You recognize it as stability. Nothing breaking is a feature, not a flaw. Your attention becomes harder to hijack. Trends pass without pulling you. Focus deepens naturally. Clarity sharpens. You stop fantasizing about escape. Life no longer feels like something to flee from. Presence replaces avoidance. That's quiet success. You build buffers everywhere, not just money. Time buffers, energy buffers, emotional buffers. Because margin is freedom. The ability to breathe, to pause, to choose again. You realize wealth is subtraction, not addition. Removing stress, removing pressure, removing unnecessary noise. Your life becomes harder to disrupt. Shocks don't derail you. They slow you briefly. Then you continue. You no longer chase motivation. Systems carry you forward. Action happens even on quiet days, especially on quiet days. You stop needing certainty to act. You trust direction instead. Progress continues without reassurance. That's confidence matured. This is where life feels wide, not rushed. Grounded, not heavy. Stable, not stagnant. Quietly powerful. You wake up without urgency pressing on your chest. The day belongs to you before it belongs to anyone else. Decisions are made from clarity, not pressure. That alone is rare wealth. You notice how little you actually need. Excess falls away naturally. Enough becomes obvious, and obvious feels peaceful. You stop optimizing for approval. Silence no longer feels empty. It feels full of space. Space to think clearly. Your plans stretch further into the future, but your attention stays in the present. You balance vision with presence. That balance creates stability. You no longer rush milestones. You trust timing. Growth unfolds when pressure is removed, and it lasts longer. Your wealth feels invisible to others, but unmistakable to you. It shows up in calm reactions and quiet confidence. You stop fearing slow seasons. They restore rather than delay. Not every phase is for growth. Some are for reinforcement. You understand now why most people never get here. It looks ordinary from the outside, but internally everything has shifted. This is the real upgrade. Nothing about this phase is loud, yet nothing feels missing. Life finally fits. That's the signal. This is the end of the chase, not because you stopped wanting more, but because you stopped running and started living from the base you built.